You came here because something stopped working. Maybe it was your marriage. Maybe it was your career. Maybe you woke up one Tuesday morning, looked at the ceiling, and realized you had absolutely no idea how you ended up in that bed, in that house, in that life. And the people around you have a name for what you're going through. They call it a midlife crisis. They say it like it's a malfunction, like you're a machine that needs a software update, like the right prescription or the right therapist, or maybe a new car will reset you back to normal. I'm 84 years old. I've watched a lot of men and women go through what you're going through right now, and I need to tell you something that nobody else is going to say. You are not broken. You are not malfunctioning. You are, for the first time in maybe 20 years, paying attention. The crisis isn't the problem. The crisis is the alarm. And the question you should be asking isn't, how do I make this feeling stop? The question is, what has this feeling been trying to tell me, and why did it take this long for me to listen? Sit with me for a few minutes, because what I'm about to tell you took me the better part of a lifetime to understand. And I'd hate for you to waste as much time as I did figuring it out. Let me tell you about a man named Robert. It was 1987. Robert was 42 years old. He had a house in Connecticut, a wife named Carol, 2 kids in private school, and a VP title at a financial firm in Manhattan. He commuted 2 hours each way. He had a good Scotch collection and a bad back, and he hadn't taken a full week of vacation in 4 years. From the outside, Robert had won. One Saturday morning, Robert was supposed to go to his son's baseball game. He didn't go. He told Carol he had calls to make, and he sat in his home office, made exactly 1 call that lasted 11 minutes, and then spent the rest of the afternoon staring at the wall, not thinking, not working, just staring. Carol found him there at 4 in the afternoon. She asked if he was all right, and Robert, who had not cried since his father's funeral in 1971, started crying and couldn't explain why. He went to his doctor the following Monday. His doctor told him he was depressed, gave him a prescription, told him to consider therapy. Robert filled the prescription, never opened the bottle, and went back to work. How do I know this story so well? Because Robert is me. I was Robert. And that Saturday afternoon, staring at the wall in my home office while my son played baseball without me, was the first honest moment I had experienced in years. I didn't recognize it then. I called it a breakdown. I called it exhaustion. I called it stress. I had a word for everything except the true one. The true word was awakening. Here is what nobody tells you about the life you've been living. You didn't build it. Not really. You assembled it. You took the pieces that were handed to you, the expectations of your parents, the definition of success your culture gave you, the blueprint your generation was handed, and you put them together as carefully as you could. And for a long time, the assembling kept you busy enough that you didn't have to ask whether you actually wanted what you were building. But at some point, the assembling slows down. The house is built. The career is established. The kids are in school. And in the silence that follows all that motion, a question surfaces that you've been too busy to hear. Is this mine? Not, is this good? Not, is this impressive? Not, would my father be proud? Is this mine? That question is not a crisis. That question is the most important thing your mind has ever asked you. And the crisis you're feeling right now is simply the pain of having ignored it for too long. I want to talk about the mask because this is something men especially don't like to discuss. At some point, maybe at 22, maybe at 30, you figured out what worked. You figured out which version of yourself got results, got respect, got the job, got the girl, kept the peace. And you wore that version like a suit every single day until you forgot it was a suit. The driven professional, the steady provider, the man who has it together, the one with the plan. Those aren't bad things to be, but they're roles. And here is the dangerous part about wearing a role for too long. Eventually you start to believe that the role is the real thing, that if you took it off, there would be nothing underneath. That fear, the fear that without the title, without the productivity, without the performance, you are nothing. That fear is what kept you in the suit for 20 years. And what you're feeling right now, the disorientation, the emptiness, the strange grief that you can't quite name, that is the moment the suit stopped fitting. That is not a crisis. That is an invitation. I made a terrible mistake after that Saturday afternoon with the wall. I went back to work. I worked harder, actually. I made the office my answer to a question I hadn't been willing to read. I got another promotion. I bought a better car. I signed the kids up for more activities. I filled the silence with noise as fast as it appeared, and it worked. For a while, the way painkillers work. The pain goes quiet, but the thing causing the pain keeps growing. By the time I was 55, the question had gotten louder than anything I could drown it with, and by then I had missed so much. Not just baseball games and anniversary dinners, but entire years of actually being present in my own life, that the reckoning was much more painful than it needed to be. I am not telling you this to make you feel bad. I am telling you this because you are sitting where I sat, and you still have time to make a different choice than I did. So here is what I want you to understand. 3 things, simple ones. The first thing, the life that stopped working was not your life. It was a life you performed for an audience that wasn't even watching. Your colleagues don't care about your fulfillment. Your industry doesn't care about your peace. The machine you've been feeding all these years will keep running the morning after you die. The fact that it stopped satisfying you is not a failure. It is information. Listen to the information. The second thing, the version of you that woke up on that Tuesday morning and didn't recognize his own ceiling, that version is not weak. That version is honest. And honesty, after years of performance, feels like falling. But it is not falling. It is landing. For the first time in a long time, you are standing on the actual ground of your life instead of the scaffolding you built around it. That is disorienting. It is also the only place from which anything real can be built. The third thing, and this one is the hardest, you are going to have to disappoint some people, not because you are selfish, because you are finally being truthful. And the people who were comfortable with the performing version of you, the always available, always achieving, never complaining version, some of them are not going to understand the change. That's all right. Their comfort is not your responsibility. What is your responsibility is the years you still have, and how you choose to spend them. I had roughly 30 good years after that Saturday afternoon. I wasted the first 10 of them trying to go back to normal. The last 20 I spent differently, slower, more honest, more present. Those 20 years were worth more than everything that came before them. You might have more time than I had, or you might have less. You don't know? Neither do I. But I know this. The moment you're in right now, the discomfort, the questioning, the strange grief for a life that looks fine on paper but feels hollow from the inside. This moment is not the beginning of your decline. It is the beginning of your life. Don't sedate it. Don't medicate it into silence. Don't buy something to fill it, or drink something to quiet it, or work harder to outrun it. Sit with it. Ask it what it's been trying to tell you, and then, for the first time in a long time, listen to the answer. I'm old now. My knees hurt. My eyes aren't what they used to be. But if you ask me when I started actually living, not performing, not achieving, not assembling, I'll tell you it was the afternoon I sat in my office, stared at a wall, and finally ran out of ways to pretend everything was fine. Best thing that ever happened to me. You're not having a midlife crisis. You're waking up. Don't go back to sleep.